Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Nisky Talks Podcast. My name is Mr. O'Connor, and today I am with Nora Leveille and Carlin, Tysz, both who are sophomores here at the high school and members of the Beekeeping Club. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
So let's start with you, Carlin. When did you join the Beekeeping Club?
I joined like halfway through last year because Nora talked to me about it and I was interested, so I went to one of the meetings and yeah, I've been part of it ever since.
Super. And how many members are there currently, active members, let's say, in the club?
About like four or five-ish. It kind of depends on who's available during the meetings, but we have a core group of like four people.
Okay. And Nora, I have a couple questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the advisor to the club? Could you tell everybody who's in charge?
Mr. Scott. He's so incredible. So awesome.
Wonderful. And I know that there are now bees. Could you tell us where they are in the school and when they were put there?
So they're in the media center. We put them in not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago. So they're newer, and this year we had to get a new package of bees, so these are brand new ones.
Wonderful. And the bees that are there have a fairly short lifespan. Maybe Carlin, can you tell us about how long the bees live?
It kind of depends on what kind of bee, because worker bees, I think, are kind of like one and done because they have shorter lifespans. The queen is the one that lives the longest, and I think she lives for like a couple of months, while worker bees will only live for like a month or two. And then drone bees, I think, are a couple of months as well, like the queen. So.
Okay, and Nora, you mentioned that it's in the media center, the library. This actually dates back a good 6 or 7 years. Mr. Scott and a retired teacher named Mr. Gribben built this hive and installed it, which involved drilling a hole through a brick wall, and the bees have access to go out and then come back in. Why don't you tell us, Nora, what the bees do when they leave the hive?
Yeah, so the observation hive can swing back and forth, and then there's like a little tube that they can go down to go outside, and from there the worker bees, they spread out, they go find flowers and get pollen, and then they'll eventually come back, and then they put it wherever they need to do.
So the bees use the pollen for food, correct? Mm-hmm. And do you know how they get the pollen? They don't have bags that they carry it in, but do you know how they get it back into the hive?
I believe it's like attached to their legs. Like I'm sure you've seen like bees that have like really puffy, like orangish yellow legs.
Yes, I have.
I'm pretty sure that's all the pollen that they
And if you go to the, if you actually go to the library and look, you'll see bees coming back in, and they'll have colorful legs. It means their hind legs are filled up with pollen to bring back. So when the pollen is brought back into the hive, what do the rest of the workers do with it?
They put it into the honeycomb that's in there, and they mix it with nectar and some of their own little, like, I don't know, pheromones or, like, fluids or something like that, and it eventually will create honey, which then is used to feed all the baby bees, which are called brood, and the queen, and eventually, and all the other bees as well will eat out of those, or sometimes they'll just cap it off, which is they'll put wax over it, and then
when you say wax over it, do you mean over an individual honeycomb that has a single egg in it, right? So the queen has laid an egg, they put in this pollen mixture, and then they seal it with wax?
Pretty much,
and that's what the queen bee is doing over and over again. She's putting an egg in, and the workers come after her and seal them off.
Yep.
And how many, I think they're called frames of honeycombs. How many are in the observation piece in the library?
So we have 8 currently. One on each frame has a comb on the front and the back, but you can only see the front of it because in between you can't see it. But yeah, there's 8 frames.
Okay, now I have seen something interesting in my years of observing is that certain bees will die in the hive, but their dead bodies, they don't live very long. We brought that up already. They don't live very long. What happens to the bodies?
The other worker bees will drag the bodies out of the hive and just dump them outside.
They do not like mess, surprisingly.
No.
They're very clean.
They're very neat. Now, I remember Mr. Scott a few years ago had some wonderful hives, but they were prone to some sort of disease, and it absolutely wiped them out. And we had to clear that. And Mr. Scott and his club back then cleared out the hive, but now it's back with a new hive. Has there been any talk of potential disease in the current iteration of bees that are in there?
This one currently is newer, so we're kind of just like looking over them, making sure that they seem to be doing okay. But yeah, there's always a threat of them not surviving a disease that they get, or not surviving the winter, or getting up and leaving.
And how, switching gears a little bit, how do you identify the queen?
So our queen, we got her with a mark on her back.
And what color is that mark this year?
Blue, I believe.
It's blue.
Yeah, it's blue.
So if somebody goes into the library, looks at the hive, that they see the queen is slightly larger, right?
Yeah.
So you see a larger one with a blue dot on her back?
That is the queen, yes.
Okay. And the other workers and drones kind of cater to her, right? They're always kind of pointed at her?
The drones don't leave the hive. Those are the only male bees, are called drones, and they don't leave the hive. Their only job is really to mate with the queen and take care of her. You can tell them because they're also a little bit bigger and a little bit beefier too.
Not as like long as
Yeah,
the
not
queen,
as long
though.
as the queen, but they're wider, and they don't have any markings on them, but they're bigger than the normal worker bees. And the worker bees are just there to work, and they're all female, and they get food and take care of the hive and stuff like that.
How difficult was it getting the bees? You guys were in your beekeeper outfits. They arrived here, but they weren't into the frames and into the hive yet. How difficult was it getting them from their transport box into the current hive?
So I have, because of like, they release something, it's like a
Pheromone.
Yeah, they will basically go to wherever the queen is, and that's their home. So what we did is we attached the queen cage, and I'll probably be labeling that soon. So it is like a cage, and it has the queen in there, and we attach it to the frame, and then we tried to dump as many bees as we could into the observation hive, and the rest that didn't make it into the observation hive just followed right in. So
Amazing.
Yep.
It's an amazing society. One final question. There will be honey harvested, hopefully, at the end of the season?
Hopefully, yeah, we'll see. When we move them back into the hive that stays outside for the winter, hopefully we can collect some of the honey.
And who gets the honey?
Probably we'll split it up amongst the club, but Mr. Scott will probably get most of it because he knows actually what to do with the honey and how to use it and stuff like that, while the rest of us would just use it in tea or something. So, yeah, I think hopefully we'll harvest some honey, but we'll see.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank both Nora and Carlin for coming in and explaining all about the Niskayuna beehive in the library. Thank you both very much. Why don't you say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye.
And we'll see you next time on the Nisky Talks Podcast. Thanks for watching.